Test 1, 2.
Test.
Test.
Okay,
Perfect.
there we go.
I'm gonna do this because I feel like I can't see you ever. All right, let's start again. Okay. Hello there. My name is Sandy, and I'm the host of the Golden Bohemians podcast, a podcast dedicated to exploring the minds and works of Calgarian artists to prove that beauty and creativity can happen anywhere. Our guest on this podcast today will be Thea, who is an extremely talented and experienced artist here in Calgary who works with a multitude of different mediums, some of which include acrylic and oil painting, charcoal and graphite drawing, and metal, stone, and glass sculpting. She also engages in performance art, music, clothing design, Blender animation, and video editing, to name a few. She is a wildly experimental jack of all trades and yet I'd say master of all, pig enthusiast, and part-time clown. Thea, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, I just realized from that intro, that was a mouthful. Yeah.
Yeah, we, for those who know, I messed up the audio, so we're redoing this part. We're just trying to pretend it didn't happen. But anyway, I saw that you recently became an artist in residence. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, yeah. So right now I'm doing my artist in residency at Community West, which is a local building in downtown Calgary, just right beside Shelf Life Books.
Nice.
Just for people who know where that place is. But the history of that building was that it used to be an old YWCA building, kind of like a third-party space where people can do community building and hang out with each other.
Nice. Yeah, I did a bit of research on Community Wise, and they're a nonprofit organization.
Yes.
Yeah, that basically focuses on like helping those who might be in need and fostering artists. And I think the program you're in specifically is for queer BIPOC artists, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Each artist was given $2,000, thanks to CATA, of course, a local arts development society in Calgary.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So what is, because I don't know much about what it means to be a visual artist. And that's a big reason why I want to bring a lot of visual artists on this podcast to learn more about them and figure out kind of that community and how it functions in Calgary. What is an artist in residence? What is usually the role that someone would do with that?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. Whenever I explain it to people, they kind of just laugh awkwardly and say, haha, what's that?
What?
Yeah.
So rude.
Say, exactly.
Artist in residence sounds kind of fancy though. What the hell?
It does.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah. Drink your water.
Basically, what an artist in residence does is that they create art for a community, organization, or for the building that they're making art in. So in this case, Community Wise is a nonprofit organization that happens to also support queer and BIPOC artists. So the kinds of art that I'll make from this artist in residence program will be dedicated to those topics.
Nice. Amazing. Because, we always need more of that. Representation's huge, It's what people watch when they're growing up, and then it normalizes things in society. It's huge. I will never stop talking about how important representation is for marginalized communities. Incredible. Okay, so I also, while doing my Instagram stalking, which I will never not do because it's not Instagram stalking, it's journalistic research.
That's a polite way of putting it.
But I noticed you have a lot of pig imagery, I think, in a lot of what you do. You have this adorable pig hat that you wear in some of the photos. You did this pig sculpture that was made out of stone, I believe, and then you did this other piece of what seems to be a blown up kind of pig, that was kind of hanging from the wall, or from the ceiling. It was actually really cool. It was huge. It's this huge piece with these paper feathers attached to it, and it was called When Pigs Fly, right? Can you tell me a little bit about your love for pigs and your pig enthusiasm?
Oh my gosh, it's actually very basic love. I just love pigs ever since I was a kid. I grew up in the Philippines, and pigs were the only animal that I found to be cute and adorable. But they were usually seen as kind of dirty animals.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel that I love rats. Rats are just the best. I post cute rat pictures on my Instagram constantly.
Oh my gosh.
I think I annoy people. I think people are blocking me as a result. But there's a thing with some animals are just considered dirty, and being called a pig, that's a bad thing. You don't want to be called a pig, and it's an insult. But pigs are kind of cute, you know? Yeah, so I don't know, it's a weird thing. So what was the inspiration for making that one piece we were talking about, with the big blow-up one?
Yeah, originally it came from a introductory sculpture class.
Yeah.
And a lot of the sculptures that I did in that class were built upon humor and playfulness and
Nice.
just kind of the absurdity of making something large.
Yeah, and it was especially funny that the whole thing itself wasn't being like lifted up. It was just like being like
Flopping over.
Yeah, it was a little floppy, and like its ass was like on the ground, like dragging behind. So that was really funny. And then you also made this other one. It was completely made out of stone. And it also had like a bit of an ass.
Yes.
Like, on it. It was thick on the back. What is the process of sculpting something made out of stone?
Oh, yeah. I think I did that piece in high school. So at the time, they were supporting a program for artists where they were able to use, I guess, local cultivated stone that was
Nice.
nearby in Alberta.
Nice.
So, yeah, normally it costs like a lot of money.
Okay,
to
but
make it.
they gave it to you for free to work with.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is it that they give you like a massive like piece of stone and then you kind of start carving? What is that process of making it?
That's honestly basically it. Yeah. It's just a massive
Just
piece
carve.
of stone. Normally you would draw the 2D figure on the
Yeah.
side of the stone and then just go off from
Okay.
there. So a lot of it relies on instinct, but also kind of analyzing the animal or figure that you're trying to carve.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay, so is it like a block or is it like a circle? What is it?
So it's kind of like a rectangle, this much of a
Okay.
depth, and then kind of like a lot of area meant for you to draw the design on.
Okay.
Yes.
And then you just draw it with like pencil or something and then start carving from there. Kind of like almost you're tracing it out, but like with stone?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. How do you get it to be so? Because like I feel like if I'm carving stone, I feel like I'm gonna carve it to the point where a big chunk falls off, and then
Oh,
I'm like,
man.
ooh.
Yeah, I think with those kinds of mediums, it's really finicky, and you
Okay.
just have to slowly take your time.
Yeah.
I'm an impatient artist, so working with these kinds of mediums kind of drives me nuts sometimes, but I think it's a good practice for any artist just to work with a material that they're uncomfortable with.
Right. It teaches you to be a bit slower and to not rush too much.
Yes.
I agree. I like doing things fast. That's why I like film, because I can kind of just like go at times. But yeah, like I guess it would force you to be a bit slower and more thoughtful, would it be?
Yeah, I actually got a quote from my friend. We were talking about art practices
Yeah.
and the way people produce art and how they approach it.
What does your friend do?
Oh, my friend is also a visual artist. They attend the same university, Alberta University of
Alberta
Arts.
University of Arts.
Name drop. Yeah, and they mentioned how some pieces of art were like pornography, where people take it at face value and get immediate gratification from it.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
it's not literal pornography, but like the idea of it is.
Yeah, they're talking about the eroticism in art, not just, the sexual eroticism, but
Yeah.
also the eroticism and the layers of context that lie
Okay.
behind it.
Like
So-
people just want to see it and then just, it's pretty, okay, moving on. Next piece. It's
Yeah,
pretty,
pretty
moving
much.
on. Like TikTok, you're just going to scroll
Yeah,
and find
exactly.
like, interesting. But like, yeah, like taking the time to sit with it and understand it a bit better.
Yeah, the same can be said about art processes,
Yeah.
where, again, I bring up the fact that, carving with stone or just any materials that take a little bit more time,
Yeah.
you're going to need that layered context and just thinking.
Yeah. And just sitting with it, I
Yeah.
suppose. Incredible. So yeah, you just mentioned that you go to Alberta University of the Arts. How does that experience? Like, what is it like to be, you are, and correct me if I'm wrong, minoring in sculpting and then majoring in something?
I'm majoring in sculpture, and
Okay.
then I'm minoring in what's called media arts.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. What does media arts mean for AU Arts? AU Arts.
Yeah, I was going to say, thanks for bringing up that question. Yes. People are also confused and laugh awkwardly when I say I minor in media arts.
I mean, arts in general. It's some weird. I'll never not hate how people hate on arts. Like, oh, do science, do medicine, but anyway, sorry.
Nah, it's
Continue.
okay. The funny thing about all of those fields is that everything is oversaturated right now. So it's kind of like you might as well stick with something that you're comfortable in.
Yeah.
At least. But anyways, media arts. Yeah. Usually it deals with videography, filmography,
Oh, nice.
audio design, but you can also lean into another aspect of media arts, which deals with circuitry, coding, programming.
Okay. Interesting. So it's really just computer arts.
Yes.
So coding would be considered, because I think when people think of coding, they think like, oh, science, like computer science, like coding. It's like a science. But would you say coding is more like an art?
I would say it's a mixture of both.
Okay.
You can't really, it's kind of like yin and yang. You can't really choose one over the other. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you destroy that, fine balance that's
Incredible.
between it.
Yeah.
I think with programming and coding, it's very new media, which is, again, just another word for media arts.
Yeah.
But I think it embeds itself in a lot of contemporary work nowadays.
Okay.
And I usually
Yeah.
encourage people to explore these mediums just so they can figure out a multimedia practice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so so you're learning like computer related things at AU Arts too. And I noticed you had posted is it GIF or GIF? Whatever. A GIF, I'm just saying GIF. It's GIF. A GIF of what seemed to be like a fight, and you had described it in the caption as like two students kind of like rivals, and they're trying to fight to see who like wins and who like gets defeated and like dishonor to their family forever. But like, what? So how did you make that? Was it just because I would think like, oh, like I can put like a filter on it and now it's pixely, like a TikTok filter, but it's not that simple, I'm assuming.
That's true, yeah. It was very much just working with Adobe Photoshop. That was also from an introductory class, but in media arts this time. So I learned how to take apart those tools and then just manually go through the steps and how these filters come to life.
Okay.
And also just manually tweaking each frame.
Yeah.
Just so it would give like a nuance that I would want.
Nice. Yeah, because like you can just do filters. Like you can, I don't know, you can do it like a TikTok filter, but then if you go into like DaVinci Resolve, the color grading, you can actually like do the filter, but
that's true.
It's an actual thing now.
Yes.
So that's really cool. Why did you want to do rivals? Like why the rival kind of vibe? Because that's definitely a very popular trope. So why rivals?
Oh my God. I do admit it was a very basic project. Just looking through the camera. Yeah, at the time that was the only, I guess, narrative that popped into my mind.
Okay. Yeah.
And again, you said it was a very cliche kind of.
Not cliche.
Well,
but
not
like
cliche.
Popular. Yeah.
Well, cliches can be good
That's
as
true.
well. But
That's true.
in the case that I used it, it was a little one note. That was also one of the critiques that it got.
I mean, GIFs are typically pretty. It was a GIF, right? Like the whole point was to have it so that it was short enough so you could kind of send it to someone.
Yeah, that was the basis of the project, just to make it into a GIF, but you can put any kind of content or media into it. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Yeah, because GIFs are interesting because they are supposed to be simple. It's usually like a short, at times comedic kind of thing. You just send to a friend like, me when you, I don't know, me when you're like doing better at me in this class, and then it's just like your character punching the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it can be very simple and like that's good too. Okay, so I saw that many of your pieces on your Instagram involve a lot of food. Why is that? You clearly have like a love for food, and you cook, right? You do a bit of cooking and baking?
Yes, I do.
Nice. So what is that love for food? Is it something you grew up around a lot and then you kind of carry that with you?
Yeah, just for context, I grew up in the Philippines, and I guess food was one of those factors in that culture where not only it brings a lot of cultural relevance, but it binds family together.
Nice.
And not just familial blood, but also relatives and friends, and social gatherings and parties.
Yeah.
And so I started playing around with this notion starting last year, I believe,
Yeah.
that I can kind of compare food and food culture to my immigrant journey.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, like I think I was part of this recent short film where there was a scene where the character, like their whole family had immigrated to Canada, and there was a scene where the character was going to like a little market to find food that was more similar to what they had back home. And it was very expensive. Like, do you find that like it's more expensive?
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's always the case for, immigrants coming to a new country.
Yeah.
Because there's not that assurance that, the products that they find will be there, let alone be at the same price.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely rough. I think it would be better if it was, more accessible for people. And there was a lot of pieces, and like you were mentioning, of the characters. Like there was this one that I remember very clearly of like what was it? It was like a bird's eye view down at like a table, and like a family's kind of like in a circle, or not a circle, but like around the table. And it was based off of something. It was based off a piece you did, or someone else's piece, and then you kind of like did your own. Am I just imagining things?
Oh, wait, hold on.
I should have pulled it up. Oh, this always happens where I'm like, I'll remember on the day. I got it, and then I forget.
Yeah, I often go on tangents too whenever I talk about, a visual artist piece. I'm like, remember this piece? And then I say anything but the title or what it's made out of.
I mean, you did, and then I'm just like, I'll remember.
No, I'm trying to remember it. Do you mind describing it more in detail?
Maybe I'm even just mixing up like which ones it was. But I do remember, I should have almost just pulled up your Instagram. I should have, next time, note to self, just pull up the guest Instagram. So you can just scroll and just go through it together. But it was like a bird's eye view, and there was like a full like table full of food. I think there was a turkey on it.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think you're talking about the 4 foot by 4 foot painting.
Yes.
I did. Yes. Okay, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah. Was that inspired by someone, or did I mix that up with someone?
It was inspired by my experiences.
Yeah.
I think my love for food coming into Canada, because I was looking for some, I guess, emotional attachment.
Yeah.
Trying to assimilate here and also integrate into Canadian culture was Thanksgiving. I always thought that it was a neat concept, and how, I guess, similar it was when it came to community building.
Nice.
With food in Filipino culture.
Yeah. That makes sense. I guess, like Thanksgiving is like a more like American, Canadian kind of like idea. But yeah, like in the Philippines, I'm assuming it is still like a lot of sharing. Like, do you like have it where, because I know some like Western cultures will have it very like, you have your plate, I have my plate, and then we don't share food. Is it different there?
It is pretty different. There's, I guess, one special event that happens called a budol fight, where the food gets placed in the middle of the table.
Yeah.
And then people eat with their hands and then kind of just take their own portions.
Yeah.
But I guess coming to Western culture, there is a lot of that individualistic aspect.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of like pigeonholing your own food and not almost refusing it, but there's almost that air around the person where they aren't comfortable enough to share their food.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like a lot of your pieces did have a lot of moments of sharing and like people together at a table. Because it is very individualistic. You're right. That is an interesting thing. Like Western culture can be very individualistic. And there's this other piece actually to kind of not to change topics, but to move it. I'm good. I want to go through all the pieces. Like there's so many things. I don't want to just like, because we could genuinely make this podcast about just like one piece you did, and we could just go on it forever. And I'd love to, but there's so many, and I just want to get get everything on it. But okay, there was this other one that was made, and this was an interesting choice. It was a piece, I believe it was like some chicken, and it was made with charcoal. Yeah. Why did you choose charcoal to make it?
Sorry, I was thinking about the piece for a second, because it's been a while since I've used charcoal.
Yeah.
I feel like the very hands-on method of using charcoal, because how I approached it was that I smudged charcoal all over the page first.
Okay.
And then used it in an eraser to reverse draw the image, so focusing more on the highlights.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you're not actually, like, you're drawing with it kind of goes like in the opposite way you'd expect it to go, where like you would think that the thing that produces the color would be the thing you draw with, but you're using an eraser.
Yeah, no, not only did it make me think about the contours of the shape more, but it made me think about textures of food rather than, the colors, which a person is drawn to first and foremost.
Yeah, a lot of your pieces especially have just very vibrant, beautiful colors that you put in like all your food. Like I think there was like a melon in one of them, and like the color it had was just beautiful, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is so yummy. I'm like my mouth is like watering, and I'm just like, oh my God, like it looks so good. And it was definitely a huge contrast to what you did with the charcoal, and it's definitely interesting that you used charcoal, because when I think of charcoal, it's like the most disgusting. Like I would never want to put charcoal in my mouth. It just looks kind of nasty. But you still used it to create something that could look still like yummy, even without the color.
That's true. Yeah. And I know a lot of visual artists tend to not use charcoal as well. It's mostly because of a texture issue. So again, wildly experimental artist here, I just want to like branch out and use mediums and push them past its breaking point.
No, that's a good thing, right? Because at the end of the day, yeah, it is interesting. It is experimental because instead of adding, you're kind of doing you're like unadd. I don't know, because you're erasing instead of adding.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know there's a specific technique to it, but I made that piece so long ago. I believe it was when I was 16.
Yeah. Like I said, the scrolling. I tried to like start with something like kind of recent, so it's not like, wait, I don't even remember doing that, and then go down and then try to end. Anyway, but yeah, like. Okay. I like going through all of it because at the end of the day, it's still valid, you know, whether it was made 10 years ago or like yesterday, you know, it's still something you made at one point in time. And then we can also see the progression, you know, we can see you like get better. Also, and then you had a different piece that was actually completely different in mood, I would say, unless again, if I'm interpreting something wrong, let me know.
It's okay. Yeah.
I don't want to be like, so that's about, no. But there was a different charcoal piece. And if this wasn't charcoal, let me know. But it seemed like it was charcoal. And it was actually a very, I would almost say, disturbing piece where it was these characters. Like there was one with like, it was basically just a skeleton. There was others that were kind of like dying. Yeah. I think it was it was 1899, the Filipino Revolution. Yeah, that one. And you kind of depicted a bunch of like bodies, like it's suffering and pain, and like there's like I think a bomb in like the corner of the page, and it was just a very like it is definitely different from a lot of the stuff you have done because a lot of it is relatively like beautiful colors and like food, you know, like just like a beautiful, yeah, like positive emotions. I would just say positive emotions, and this one definitely sparked of like a fear almost in me. Can you tell me a little bit about that piece?
Yeah, so that project actually emerged from a still life drawing assignment that we interpreted. So we had to draw a still life from 5 different angles, but all of the 5 views had to be in one piece of paper. So there was an overlap of shapes. Yeah. And then the professor said, erase the lines that you don't think are necessary and interpret it your own way.
Interesting.
Yeah, there was a lot of skull-like motifs and a lot of the objects that were present at the still life resembled a lot of the artillery that I found in the Philippine Revolution.
Yeah, because there was a lot of death that happened. Like I think thousands and thousands of civilians were like killed or I think like starved potentially, like just from like a little bit of research that I was able to do the other day. But yeah, like it was a pretty bad time, and I think you really conveyed that in the piece. And what's really interesting is that it actually reminded me of this other piece that was done by some survivors of the bombings that happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, specifically Hiroshima. I actually have them right here. I'll show you these ones.
Oh, yeah. No, my professor brought those up as well and then showed me the images. And it was scarily accurate to what I had depicted.
Exactly. Like it reminded me exactly of that. Like the lack of color and the kind of, was it maximalist that it really conveyed. Like it was, and disturbing. Like I would say disturbing because it's art doesn't mean it has to be like, oh, sunshine and rainbows. It doesn't always have to make people laugh and happy. Like, how do you feel about that kind of art that, like, makes people feel negative emotions?
I guess if they do use it purely to shock individuals, I'm mostly against it. Yeah. Because I believe it has to be depicted in a clever way where individuals are kind of encouraged to research about the event on their own or engage in communication or conversation with the people around them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you can just depict some horrible, horrible atrocity on screen and then put it on YouTube and like, it's art. But yeah, if there's a reason, you know, like for your piece exactly, like first of all, I probably wouldn't have looked up like the revolution if it wasn't for like your piece. I wouldn't have done that research. So of course I think it did what it needed to do. So that was really amazing. All right, there was this other piece. Let me see. Hold on. Let me see if I have it here. you had this other piece of, I definitely want to talk about this one. It was this wooden statue of this, like, person. Like, I'm pretty sure it's I don't know if you know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think I know.
Was it human size?
Yeah, it was directly taken from my height, so.
Okay, human size. So it's this human-sized wooden statue of this character or this person that's kind of doing this almost, I didn't know how to describe it, so I used like a hallelujah kind of like pose where they're kind of like looking up to the sky and they're kind of like, they're like happy and their mouth is like agape and they're like, their hands are up to the sky as well. And then if you turn the statue and you kind of like look at it from a different angle, like inside the person, I'm describing this badly.
Yeah, that's okay.
But inside the person, there is this like kind of, I would say city or like little like houses and like this like bridge and buildings and other people. And a thing I didn't notice until I zoomed in was that the people were also doing that same stance that the giant person was doing. Like the little people are doing the same stance that they're living inside of, essentially. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Oh man, yeah. There's a lot of like nuances and layers to this piece, so I'll just start off with some context.
Yeah, please.
Growing up in the Philippines, it was a very heavily religious country.
Yeah.
97% of the population, I say this to people, are Catholic or Christian.
97, wow.
Yes,
Yeah.
a very large, group of people. But anyways, when I started on this project, I looked back on one of the stories that was in kind of like the Christian Bible.
Yeah.
It was called the Tower of Babylon.
Yeah.
Essentially what that story depicted was that people of all ethnicities and languages, they were building up a tower to reach to the heavens.
Yeah.
But this was at a time where different languages didn't exist yet.
Okay.
So they were reaching up to the heavens, communicating with each other.
Yeah.
But they've let their pride and ego get in the way.
Is it like that story where like they had the fake? I'm gonna butcher this. The character had like the fake wings and they like flew up to the sun and they got burned.
Oh, that's Icarus.
It was like there was like a interpretation of that in My Little Pony. That's the only reason I know about it.
Like, that's actually a pretty funny way to say.
Yeah, like Rarity.
Icarus. Yeah.
Rarity had wings and she flew up to the Pegasus like section and she got burned.
Oh
but yeah, like I think it wasn't as gruesome as I'm describing it, but I'm assuming the actual story itself was pretty gruesome because I think he got like literally burned. Is it kind of like that?
Yeah, you can compare it to Icarus. Yeah,
Okay.
where as well pride and ego got in the way. And so eventually the god depicted in the story punished those people that were building the towers up too high because they almost reached to the heavens and gave them different, I guess, languages and customs so that they can no longer understand each other.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. Yeah, like that's like, and I'm assuming that's why it's like a tower kind of up.
Pretty much. And yeah, sorry, how it relates back to the piece. I decided to incorporate that hallelujah stance that you were depicting into the main figure. And I played a lot with two-dimensional shapes.
Okay.
And how they can conform when a person kind of goes into a different view.
Nice. Interesting. Yeah, that one's a really, really cool piece.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. And how long did it take you to make, do you think?
Again, this was also from the introductory sculpture class. They usually give us like 2 weeks to do each project.
2 weeks. I mean, I say okay, but then like if you were to give me 2 weeks to recreate that, like it's over for me. I get like a block of wood and I'm like, this is the best I could do. Like, I'm sorry. But I mean, yeah, obviously like then your skill, like it's a skill thing too. Yeah. All right. I think we're going to take a small break. I definitely want to talk about this again. Awesome. I just noticed that the thing is it's kind of whatever. But yeah, we're good. Okay, we're gonna take a small break and then we'll be right back. All right.
I was gonna say, I recognized his voice immediately. I was like, has it been that long? I forgot that you worked on the movie.
You know they knew they were gonna cook if they were like, Weird Al, can you make us music? Like, please. Oh, Captain. Anyway, I don't know if it's copyright. It's probably copyright. Anyway, we're back. We're back. Okay, making sure framing's all good, camera's going, audio's going. Can you test, please?
Test.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay, we're not gonna not get your audio. Thank God. All right. So before we break, we were talking about Tower of Babylon, and the piece that was kind of inspired by that. And yeah, there's a lot of like what you were saying. There was a lot of like imagery and like important moments in it that kind of mean things. And specifically, again, like I noticed that the little characters had the same, like, what do you call that? The position, stance, and like this.
You can call it a stance, yeah.
Yeah, stance as the big guy did. That kind of like was the. I don't know how to describe this. It's really something that you just like see. For those watching visually, I'm gonna put like a photo of it if that's okay with Thea. But yeah, like the little people had the same stance as the big person. Why is that?
I think at the time when I was making the project, it was really just to emphasize the visual aspect of it. So it was nothing more than an aesthetic choice. Kind of just to hone in on the stance more.
Nice. Interesting. And was it intentional because, again, like they are looking up to the sky? Is that definitely like mean something? Because it's the story itself. Did we tell the story yet? Could you tell the story like from what you know, the Tower of Babylon?
I think we talked about
we
it.
Did?
Like, yeah.
I'm worried about tech. I'm like, oh yeah, well, one in one ear, out the other. Okay, but from what I think, okay, from what I know, it is like a kind of like man versus God kind of vibe, and the characters are kind of looking up to the sky, like kind of looking up to God. Was that an intentional decision?
It was an intentional decision. At the time when those same people were building to the towers or to the heavens, they did it in dedication to the god that they were worshiping.
Oh, nice. Okay, interesting. But then yet the god still didn't like that. Like, even though it was like, you know, we were doing this for you. Like, no. And they were still like, no. But like, even just you doing it's the principle I'm mad about, guys. So, okay. Interesting. And I also noticed that because there's 3 levels. Like, the first level is kind of like buildings, from what I can tell. And then like a major ladder. And then the second level are like bigger or like smaller kind of houses. And then the top level is like a bit more full, but smaller buildings and houses there too. It kind of gets like from big to small. What was the process with that? What was the intention?
I think all of those aspects on the shelves were not only like an aesthetic choice, but also my interpretation of the tower as well. So those ladders were kind of like the connecting factors between those shelves. Yeah,
that makes sense. Like like pyramids, you start kind of big and then you go. It's also just structurally sound that way. Do they at AU Arts? Do they ever do any architecture kind of like teaching? Does that ever?
Unfortunately, not in the fine arts sector. In the design kind of realm, they kind of teach it to more of the graphic design students.
Okay. Do you guys ever collaborate at AU Arts?
We do, yeah. Collaboration, as well as working with multimedias or more than one medium, is always encouraged by the faculty. Yeah. And it kind of, again, fosters community building, which I actually like from AU Arts. Not only do we have kind of like a small student population, but everyone seems to know each other. Okay, so you would definitely recommend AU Arts to students who want to like pursue art and like find a university for that. Yes, exactly. Nice, perfect. And speaking on collaboration, I noticed that you did a piece in collaboration with someone else. I didn't catch their like Instagram or their name even. My journalistic like integrity, but I believe it was what was it called? It was, let's see if I can find like the name for it. It was this projection mapping installation, I think it was called. Yeah, and you did the music for it, I believe? I did the audio design and then the background for audio design. So that is like the creation of the music? Yeah, creation of music. So essentially I used Audacity, a sound design program. Yeah. And then kind of, I guess, clipped a lot of audios relating to the Roman god Venus. So that was kind of the basis of the project and where we were going to go from there. Yeah. As for designing the background for the projection mapping, I used a coding program called P5JS, and then inspired by several YouTube videos I found, I did a Perlin noise, I guess, background. Yeah, I mean, I'll explain it more to you.
That's a lot of stuff. And I'm just like, oh, that is really cool though. I mean, again, I'll put a photo up, but yeah, like it was this white like figure with like these eyes and they're like looking out. And then like the background, of course. And then the music was just, and it was like a surround kind of, yeah, like it was a full project. Like you were in the room and you like are inside the piece essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was that the first time you ever did something kind of like that?
Yes. Yeah. And I want to kind of experiment with that room and create kind of like a full body experience.
Yeah.
So including audio design and then including the projections so that it would map around a person's body and not just on one particular wall.
Incredible. Amazing. Yeah, and so you had to do it how do you get a sound to be surround sound? Like what is that process? I'm very sound illiterate, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, it's okay. The design system, and kind of like the speakers were already embedded in the room, so it was already nice to not think about those aspects. Yeah.
Is it like an editing thing? You go in and you're like, you like click on like sound. I want it to be surround sound.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, because it reminded me of that there's an installation at Telespark where they have, I think, what was it? It was like the moon landing. Like I think they have the moon landing.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Have you ever gone there?
I've gone there. Yes.
Nice. Yeah, because they basically like they show like the process of the people like landing on the moon, and it's like a complete like you're in a room like full of it. And I think they even have like projectors like on the ground, so then you're like in it, and then like surround sound. So it's really nice. And did you also draw the I don't know what to call it, like the being or the creature?
Oh, the figure.
The figure.
So since it's a collaborative work, we divvied up like the process. So the character was designed by a friend of mine, Leo Garcia.
Yeah.
He was the one that I guess did the character design for Venus and then pixelated her.
Yeah.
So that she would become this anonymous figure rather than depicting, I guess, kind of the typical aspects that you would see in a Roman goddess.
Yeah.
Like her. Yeah.
And why make it you just used the word and I instantly forgot what it was. Anonymous. Why make it anonymous? Because when you anonymize something, like there's definitely, I feel like, an intention with that, and then definitely like power with that too.
It's up to the person, I guess, viewing the projection mapping, but for the most part we wanted her to be as relatable as possible, so we tried stripping her of, I guess, any facial features that might set her apart or make her seem unique, because we want to strip down her character as much as possible. Yeah.
So you wanted people to relate with the character who are watching.
Yeah.
And how, like, what were the emotions you wanted people to feel? Like, you as the artist, like, what were you hoping for?
Yeah, we were all hoping for, people to relate with, I guess, the mental struggles within the projection mapping.
Yeah. So. And what are those? I think I'm not as familiar with the story behind it. Can you describe a bit of what I guess the backstory would be?
Yeah, it's okay. Roman goddess Venus is known typically to bring love to others. But in this case, we did our own unique interpretation. Yeah. Where I guess she starts to go insane from all the love she gives. Because interesting. To us, there's a lot of complexity behind that love, and it's not straightforward.
Okay, so
people
like
think it is, yeah.
That's really interesting, actually, because so you're saying, so the story behind it is that she is just the goddess of love, and it's her job to kind of give love, and then you guys were adding something to it of, okay, like if I were in her shoes of constantly giving, because how many times does she receive? I guess, like, did you feel that like maybe she was her love is maybe one-sided? Like, it's a lot of giving and not a lot of receiving?
We kind of interpreted it that way. Yeah. But as well, there's also the fact that we've kept her anonymous and we want people to see themselves in her.
Right, because that's also, like, a thing. Like, I think everyone at some point in their life has felt like I feel like no one cares about me. I feel unloved. Like, I feel like I give, and then sometimes I feel like I get things back, And like I feel like that is like a universal struggle that at least you've experienced at least once in your life of just feeling that like loneliness. Yeah. And then like, was there a reason for, because she was a completely white, like it's a completely white figure, like the hair and everything. Was there an intention with that, or is it just like the godliness of it?
Kind of as well, sticking with anonymity. We tried using white as a blank canvas, essentially, but
nice.
also just kind of giving her etherealness.
Right. Yeah,
to
exactly.
her, like she's almost glowing.
Incredible. Yeah. So, yeah, because, yeah, I guess you would, yeah, like a blank canvas. So you would want, yeah, for people to kind of draw themselves on. Incredible. All right. Okay. You also, there was this other amazing piece. Let's see, Rojas City Fishing Port. Was that the name?
Yeah.
Okay. And that was an incredible piece. Like, I think that was like one of like your big ones or one of your main ones that I'd seen. It was beautifully done. Like, I'm going to describe it now. I love describing the pieces specifically because now I can, I describe them badly, but like I'll put a photo up if I can. But basically it's this massive net that you had kind of hanging from the ceiling, right? And you had these like multicolored fish. Not that the fish were multicolored, but like one would be like yellow, another one would be like more red. And it was like put in a rainbow position, right? Yeah, it was in a rainbow, and there's a bunch of fish like hanging from the net. And then on the bottom there was like, was it another net or was it kind of water?
Yeah, so it can be interpreted as water, but I essentially utilized kind of like a landlocked material, nylon rope.
Okay.
And then hand dyed it blue. So you'll see a lot of the nuances in the rope and how it's not just one color.
Amazing. Yeah, and that one was, how big was it? Because there's only so much you can see from Instagram. But
that's true. I believe it spanned 14 feet. Just
14 feet.
Across.
Like this room? More than, I don't know.
More than less, yeah.
More than less.
I would say, yeah.
Pretty big. Okay.
And then, sorry.
No, you go, please.
It's okay. And it was at a hanging height of like regular room, 8 feet.
If this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, basically this room.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's huge. Yeah, this room, you can't tell on camera, but this room's pretty big. Okay, interesting. So, and a really, really cool thing that you mentioned within that, or in the caption, was that you kind of felt, let's see if I can not butcher this describing, you kind of felt like you were experiencing the actions of the fishermen as you were making it. The way you would kind of put the fish out to dry is maybe how you would like put like the real fish out to dry. And the way that you like made the net was the way that they would cast the net. Can you describe a little bit more of those feelings?
Yeah, actually, those were all accidental progresses behind the process of the piece itself.
Yeah.
So how I made the fish was that I hand dyed them on my own.
Oh, wow.
And then when I was hanging them to dry, I was hanging them in a way where you would typically dry fish. So usually on a drying rack, and hanging it over the wires.
Like in the sun kind of thing? Or
yes,
just
pretty much.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you use the actual sun to dry it. What time of year did you make this at? Was it like summer?
Oh my gosh, it was October, so it was interesting.
Okay, okay. So you're like it's October, like, oh, it's not. It's November right now, and it's like cloudy outside. So you're probably like begging that like you'll get some sun. Oh, geez. Okay, summer would have probably been better, but that's interesting. Okay, and you were saying that the same thing with like the net, was it? Like you were feeling like you were casting it?
Yeah, especially after I was hand dyeing it. I flung it out to dry outside, and I was casting it in the same motion that I would see fishermen in the Philippines do it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you can't really see it in the final product, right? But I always tell people that the process behind an artwork is as equally important as the final product.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's really cool, because it's true. People don't see that. And like that's why I love like behind the scenes like film so much, and like behind the scenes footage, because like and it's not just visual art, right? Like I'm sure film is also the same, where I don't know, years of work can go into maybe like 30 minutes or something, and people don't see that, and they just see like, oh, this film sucked. And you're like,
oh my gosh,
it like killed me to get it done. But yeah, like, so, and performance art is kind of a way to kind of for people to see the process, right? And you do some performance art.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I guess from your what was it you called your Instagram stalking? Like your
journalistic research. Journalistic research.
Through your journalistic research, you
yeah.
probably saw like a lot of the performance art videos.
Yes, I did.
Those are dedicated for a fine arts drawing class.
Really? And then you're just like, no, I'm gonna do performance art.
So yeah, more context behind that.
Yeah.
The drawing class I was taking was specifically geared towards ideas and concepts.
Okay.
And the teacher often encouraged students to do multimedia practices or experience and experiment with mediums that they typically don't work with. So for me, that was performance art.
Yeah.
I always thought it was kind of like a neat vehicle to tell one's narrative and also, again, show the process behind the work at the same time.
Exactly.
So I decided to incorporate all of my projects into performance art-based works.
Yeah.
And that's how,
Were there any that you hadn't posted on Instagram? Because again, most of my journalistic research is done through like your social medias and what I can find. Was there anything you didn't post?
I did post only the end products of the videos, which was interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really document my works in progress that often, which is pretty ironic.
Maybe you should. I mean, like, I know you have a YouTube channel where you put the, what was it called? The, Let me see if I wrote it down. I didn't write it down. But, okay, what was it called? The something worker. It was this first video.
Nuclear office
the nuclear
worker.
office worker. Yeah. Yes. You had posted that one, and then you also posted
the happiness
happening.
Happenings, yeah. It's a mouthful, yeah.
Yes. And it's only just those two videos, I believe. Like, that could be, I don't know,
that's
YouTube channel, become your influencer era.
Dude, school's beating my ass, so I would have the time to set aside these if I
hire someone. You need a producer who can sit down with you and produce stuff for you. Please hire me. I work for nothing. I pay you to work with you, please.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, like I think, because again, that's not something we see. We see, like, again, the end product is all we see. And then like performance art is a way to kind of incorporate all of it so people can see it happening. A very like impactful performance piece that I think I saw online a while back. Oh, it's actually kind of sad, actually. But it was this woman that I think was like on the streets of some busy city, and she like sat there and she had like scissors or she had tape and she had like a bunch of things, like paint maybe, just like different things in front of her, and then like a sign that said like, do whatever you want to me.
I think I know the artist that you're talking about, yeah. It's
I don't
pretty
know.
infamous piece, yeah.
It's pretty famous. I mean, it's famous enough for me, someone who doesn't see a lot of performance art, to see it. But yeah, like, and it was pretty, I don't know, it got kind of sad because people were kind of mean to her, you know? Like, you wouldn't, I don't know, it was definitely, I think it definitely touched a little bit on maybe, like, the feminist movement and a bit of that because, I don't know, there were definitely people that took, like, advantage and were pretty, like, cruel to her. But it obviously sparked a conversation, sparked this conversation. It sparked, like debates, it sparked like thoughts, you know? So performance art can actually be very, very powerful.
That's true. Can I actually touch base on that project?
Yes, please.
I think not only did it recognize, I guess, the feminist movement, it also recognized the dual nature of humans and how unpredictable they can be. So
interesting.
My interpretation of how the artist approached this project was she kind of predicted, I guess, the unpredictable nature
I think
of these people. Yeah. And I think it's important to not turn those, negative experiences away. Yeah. Because they can also be helpful to the artists.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Progress.
Because obviously, like, as someone who, again, isn't a performance artist, I worry. And I'm like, oh my God, like, if I was in that position, I'd be so scared and like, there's tape in front of me. I don't know. There was just a bunch of objects, but you're right. Like, as an artist, you do take a risk, you know, like there's a lot, you put your heart into things, and then there's always a chance someone's going to come around and be like, I don't like it. It's garbage.
It's so embarrassing to do work. Just art in general. I mean,
so embarrassing. That's right. That's actually a good way of putting it. Embarrassment is definitely like I'll be on the bus and I'll be like, I have a podcast. And I'll be like, a podcast, so I can see the gap year's going well, and I'm like, oh. It is like embarrassing sometimes. And there's also like a social stigma, I feel, with like art. But yeah, like you're right, embarrassment. Like especially when you're like, not even just when you're starting out, just anytime. You're right.
I guess,
it's so
yeah.
embarrassing all the
I mean,
time.
yeah, the more passion that you put into a project, the more involved
Yeah.
that you feel. But then again, there's that social stigma where I guess you almost need to be aloof in the art that you make.
Yeah. Yeah. But then if you don't care, then it shows in the art. Like,
Exactly.
you got to like fully commit, which is a huge risk for your heart and your soul and everything, or else, I don't know, it'll show.
Man, I thought I was going to be desensitized, like the more works I churn out, but the feeling just gets amplified every time.
It's only getting worse. And you've been doing how long have you been doing this for? You've been doing art for a very long
Oh
time.
my gosh, I started at a young age, actually. I think 16.
16.
Like at the start of my high school years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's like it's been a while. I mean, I guess in the grand scheme of things, but still, I mean, if you want to go into it, like, we're born artists, you know, we want to be creative, you know, like, why do kids want to draw? Kids want to play. The kids want to create stories, you know. So like, yeah, I would say like your whole life, I would almost say, and then maybe was it high school you were thinking more professionally, like, okay, now I'm gonna like lock in.
Lock in. I think in the beginning of high school, I didn't really have any interest in pursuing the fine arts professionally.
But what were you thinking? What were you planning on doing if it wasn't
engineering? I'm not kidding. Yeah.
I mean, engineering's art-ish.
I was actually accepted for architectural engineering in my grade 12 year.
Okay.
But then in my second semester, very last semester of high school, I'm like, this isn't me. I gotta talk to my parents about this.
Yes. That's really brave too.
Yeah.
Like, that's tough. Like, I feel like a lot of people our age, we're the same age. Like, that's, first of all, I think that's great. I'm the same age as her. Like, I'm famous too. Like, but yeah, like, I think like that's a scary thing to do, like, to tell parents. And I mean, I don't know if you have this, but like, my immigrant mom, I can't just go and be like, I want to do art. She's like, what? Are you okay? Like, no, I did not. What? So I don't know if you had something kind of like that experience.
Oh man, no, I have those experiences all the time. Even to this day, when I'm talking to my relatives or I guess some of my friends who lean more traditional.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always get the same reactions. So what are you gonna do with your art degree when you graduate?
It's none of your beeswax. Like, I'll do what I want. Yeah, it's yeah. There's a bit of like judginess.
There's always gonna be judginess, judgment.
Judgment.
Sorry,
Yeah,
that was the word I was thinking.
What am I saying? Judginess.
Yeah, there's always gonna be judgment. You just gotta cater to the right audience.
It's gotta lock in. It's gonna power through.
Lock in also works.
Lock in.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And okay, specifically back on the topic of like performance art. That is the right term, right? Performance
Yes.
art? Okay, good. Good. You did this one piece, and we talked about it lightly a couple minutes ago. The happenings.
Yeah, so that last word was inspired by a term first used to describe performance art. So happenings.
Happenings.
Yeah, they, I guess, stem from the spontaneity of performance art because
Yeah.
what would happen is that there would be pop-ups instead of, I guess, kind of planned.
Yeah. Okay, so
pieces.
it wouldn't be you take to Twitter and you're like, everyone come on down, like I'm gonna be doing this performance art and like come support me. Link in bio. But yeah, so it would be more, and this was pre-social media. People would just go.
Oh no, this was established back in the 1950s. So
Okay.
that's when performance art first emerged. It was first used by Alan Capro, one of the founding, I guess, people behind performance art.
Interesting. And happenings. Is that a word?
It
Or
is a word. I mean, technically fine arts term, but probably not English.
It's a
In
word.
the English,
It's
yeah,
a word.
it's
You
a
made
word
it.
to be.
Yeah, you guys made it a word, and it's a cool word. Like happenings. It's happening, and it's multiple. It's multiple things that are happening.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I didn't know that. Okay, so and I'm gonna describe the happiness happenings. I love that title even more. Now that you know, when you know the title like meaning, you just love it even more. And now I won't forget. The happiness happenings was basically Thea dressed up as a clown and just went out in public and was like, "Hey guys," and your goal as the clown was to probably bring happiness to people. Yeah, as most clowns like is, are what the hell, but I sensed there was definitely like a comedic undertone with it, where the clown was like, there was a moment where you're like in an empty field and you have like a megaphone and you're like, I forget exactly what you say, but like, does anyone want a smile, or does anyone
need a smile?
Need a smile? And then the camera cuts to this wide shot and you're completely alone. Anyone, like, please? And there's like nobody around.
Oh man.
Was it kind of like part of that, of like the clown trying to like bring happiness and struggling a tad?
That's true. I think the development with this project started with me thinking of character tropes as a whole, and I thought of the clown, which used to be the vehicle of comedy, but now has been cast aside because of
forgotten.
Yeah, forgotten, but also like I guess bastardized by pop culture references.
Bastardized. Yeah. That's an interesting like term, I guess, like for it. Yeah, because I mean, I guess I do wonder like when the last time I saw a clown, apart from your video, and was genuinely like, the clown is funny. Like, I don't know, maybe I don't go to theater enough, but yeah, like, I don't know, it's true. Like, it's been seen more as like scary, or I don't know.
That's true, yeah. I mean, animals, they get scary. I don't know if you've seen the part with the dog, where the dog runs away as soon as it looks from my face.
I saw that. It was so funny. I was like, oh my God, and that wasn't planned. That couldn't have been planned. Train the dog ahead of time.
Oh God,
that was hilarious. I was like, oh my, the dog's a paid actor.
But yeah, with the other conversations I had with the people I was interviewing during that video, outside of the recording, they said, I really like the work that you do, and it's kind of a shame to the other people who act as clowns. They kind of force the persona or movements on us and exaggerate it in an unnecessary way.
Interesting.
Where they kind of force the person to laugh.
Yeah, which can usually make people not want to laugh.
Exactly.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess because clowns are pretty like clowny. I don't know how to describe
I mean, that's what they are. That's in their nature, right?
Yeah, but exaggerated movements and whatnot.
How I approached the clown was that I kind of wanted to exaggerate this kind of dry, awkward humor that I've often portrayed myself around people, and then just make that my entire persona of the clown.
Incredible. Yeah, and I think it did work. Like, I think like from just watching the people in the video, like I think there was like, well, okay, because the video itself, I'm assuming you were out there longer than the video is.
Yes.
By a lot, I'm assuming. How long were you out there for?
Actually, recording only took about 3 hours, which I was surprised
Only
by.
3 hours? Okay. I mean, I guess, it could have been like a 12-hour day, but 3 hours. But that's still a while. Yeah. Because the video itself is how long? Like,
around 4 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay, 4 minutes. So, it's definitely cut down. What would you say was the most like interesting thing that wasn't on camera that happened to you while dressed as a clown?
There's a lot of, I wish I included this in another, I guess, standalone video. But I had a lot of profound conversations with people who would kind of not relate to the clown, but they were able to open up themselves more because they were speaking to a character rather than a stranger who's considered more human.
Yeah, like a person with like judgments and like thoughts and feelings, and a character is just a character.
Yeah, one of the people that I spoke to was a mother. She had family come over, 10 family members for about 4 days for Thanksgiving.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and not once did they thank her for cleaning,
on
cooking.
Thanksgiving?
I know.
They didn't thank her on Thanksgiving? It's in the name. Yeah. Like, what the heck?
I know, and she caught me doing the field scene on her smoke break. And I approached her because she was the only person there.
Yes, a person, finally. You just like tackle them.
Yeah, and I was like, hey, I'm doing a recording. Can I get your permission if, you want to be interviewed? Yeah. Yeah, and she agreed. And we sat down for 10 minutes just to have a conversation, just so she was more relaxed. Yeah. And in the zone.
Nice. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. By me dressing up as a clown and just clowns themselves, they already exaggerate. Again, a lot of human personality traits. Yeah. And pain just happened to be one of them. Nice. Right? And I think from an off-topic, off-camera discussion that we had, comedy, dark humor gets brought up a lot. And it's kind of like that delicate balance between trying to incorporate that pain into your work or into a comedy routine, but without making it into a therapy session.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, and like, stand-up itself I feel like has a lot of dark humor. I feel like when people do stand-up, from what I've watched, a lot of it will be like jokes that can feel really risky, but as long as you're doing it in a certain way and you're not just maybe punching down for the sake of punching down, it can be done like really well.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. And you are planning on doing your first stand-up routine in 2 days? Like 2 days, right? Like the 6th?
The 8th. Yes.
Yeah.
Nah,
The
it's okay.
8th. So that's 3 days. 1, 2, 3. 3 days. Counting down. How do you feel about that?
Ooh, yeah. I mean, I can talk more about it. I labeled it as time wasters, and the tagline is a procrastinator takes on a stand-up comedy routine. So
I love that you have like first of all a really cool poster. Like I don't know if it's a poster, but like a thing you put on your Instagram, kind of announcing like, "Hey guys, like pull up," and yeah, like and you have like a title and you have a tagline. Like that's really good like advertising. That's really just good like. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. It's very clever. What was your process with writing jokes? Because you said, a procrastinator. So I'm assuming a lot of it was procrastination.
Yeah, okay. I think I'm approaching this through a very dry, awkward humor standpoint.
Nice.
A lot of the jokes that I'm writing into the routine deal with procrastination. I mean, obviously, but also relating back to my experiences in university.
Nice.
And how far I've taken my procrastinating habits.
You are also a student, and students are, they are notorious for procrastinating. I mean, it's fair. There's a lot of stuff you got to do. You're juggling a lot of things. So that's fair. Do you typically, and I'm curious as someone who does stand up as well, how do you go about memorizing jokes? Like, do you write out like an entire story, or how does it typically go for you?
I usually do skeleton notes rather than just writing out the joke as a whole, which is more intimidating for my work practice. I usually go off of bullet points and then just go from there.
Okay.
And then just follow it back when I go off track, you know?
Yeah. So, I feel like a lot of stand-up, it can also be improv, you know? Like, you have a rough idea, but then if it's too rehearsed, then people are going to be like, you're just speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of improv is working off from the audience as well. So
exactly.
I don't usually like to bar them off.
Yeah.
From the stage that I perform on. Yeah.
No, it makes sense. I mean, like improv, or not improv. I mean, yeah. But stand-up is very like, I would almost say like audience interactive at times. And especially if you're going to do like crowd work. Would you ever do crowd work?
Ooh, I rarely do crowd work. I think the last time I did it was during my high school years.
Yeah. What were you doing? Like, what was that about?
I was a theater kid, guys. Oops, sorry.
I mean, who could have seen that one coming?
I dressed up as a clown.
I'm a theater. I was more of a tech kid, but I was definitely in middle school for sure, like acting, theater kid. So theater kid recognized theater kid, in other words.
Yeah, I was crowd working a lot, and I would host these, I guess, impromptu game shows and act as a host or mediator to roll get the whole thing rolling.
Yeah, that's interesting. A lot of times, like, I don't know, what is it called? Saturday Night Live or the late night show. Like, they'll bring on comedians to host those, and that's for a reason, right? Comedians are usually good at crowd work. They're good on thinking on their toes and thinking of something funny in the moment. And you need that if you're going to be like a host and try to make people laugh and smile at night, especially. But yeah, interesting.
Oh, man.
So time waster. How did you photograph that?
How did I photograph it?
Yeah.
Oh, it was very on brand with the tagline. I just saw photos in my gallery.
Like, this will be
and
good.
then recontextualized them into the poster. Was about it. The whole poster took like a very short time. I was also procrastinating to do it. So
classic. Yeah. I mean, it's part of it. Yes. That's good. And that's happening on the 8th.
Yes.
Gotta check my schedule.
I have a confession to make.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, it is my first up stand-up comedy routine, but the way that I got there eventually might piss you off.
Oh my God. Oh yeah. Right. We were talking a little bit like earlier about I was like, I want to talk about your stand-up, and you're like, I'm gonna say something that's gonna piss you off. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, so I was talking to the coordinators. They were trying to do kind of like a talent showcase. They said
Okay.
all we've gotten so far are singers and I guess musicians.
Okay.
Does anyone want to do something? And I felt my hand shot up for
You're like,
some reason.
what's happening right now? My hand
And then
is
I
moving.
said, what
Yeah.
if I do a stand-up comedy routine?
So this was a spur of the moment.
It was a very spur of the moment thing.
You know what? It doesn't piss me off. I respect that. I respect it because for me, it definitely was like a month of like, okay, I guess I could maybe do this if I could just pull myself together enough, I can maybe get on stage. Like it is a fear. Stand-up's scary, guys.
It is.
It's so
It is.
scary. Like you got to get up there and you got to make people feel an emotion that can sometimes be difficult to get people to feel.
So yeah, in the way that my stand-up comedy routine, it's not gonna be too structured
Yeah.
as normal routines usually go. It's kind of just here we have our one token act.
Oh, that kind of okay. That's rough because you're
Yeah.
gonna have to maybe they sing a sad song right before your thing, and then you're like, okay, guys, let's change
I know, like
the topic.
they do like a beautiful rendition of a cover,
Yeah.
and I like walk onto the stage. And I said, "Shit, didn't expect this to go so well."
Just showing you're like, women, am I right? Am I right, guys?
Oh man, the worst part is that all my family friends are coming over. They're like very religious and very like
Ah.
conservative.
Okay.
and brash.
And your jokes, I'm assuming, maybe aren't.
Yeah.
Well,
It's okay.
that'll be a fun dinner conversation.
Fun introduction.
Fun little
Reintroduction.
moment. Yes.
Mm.
Okay, well that's really exciting then. Okay, what do you have next going on apart from stand up?
Yeah. You can check all of my updates on the Instagram
Yes.
page that I run. You can post it.
Yeah. What is
Yeah.
it called?
It's just called my name, Thea
Okay.
Galang. I just repeated like my first name letters twice
Classic. Yeah.
because all the Thea Galangs were taken apparently. And yeah,
Popular name, I guess.
exactly. And you can find me at the Community Wise building during my residency hours. So I'll be there for about a month. It is an open studio.
Nice.
Feel free to text me on my Instagram profile or just drop in. Yeah.
Incredible. That's really exciting.
Yes.
Like, and with them, you're just gonna be like creating art. Like,
Yes,
yeah.
in a allocated space that they've set aside for
Nice.
me. Yes.
Amazing. That's so exciting. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the Golden Bohemians podcast, Thea. It was an absolute honor to have you on here. And I don't think I stopped smiling the whole time. Like my cheeks are like numb, I think. I'm just sitting here and I'm just like,
So
oh
your
my
jaw
God.
fall off
Yeah,
afterwards.
like it's gonna like get stuck like this. And I'm just gonna like, thanks so much for coming on. But truly, it was such a joy to have you on. And I'm so excited to see what you got next.
Gosh.
Are you gonna be sticking around in Calgary for a while?
A while? Yeah. Oh, and thanks again for having me.
Of course.
I really appreciate
You
it.
say, like, I remember you would be like DMing me and be like, thanks for having me on. And I'm like, thank me. No, thank you. Thank you for wanting to come on. Like, trust me, like, I am more than like happy. Right. I never know how to end these things. I always end it in like the most awkward way where I'm just like, okay, so bye. What is it? Wait. Oh, shit, hold on. I
You just go through each button.
Yeah, literally.
Like,
I knew this one would work. What is, yeah. There we go. Okay. Anyway, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. That's it. That's all I got. I don't know. Okay. Thank you.